Welcome to the Amador Fire C.A.N Report, your go-to source for the latest updates, insights, and stories from Amador Fire. Serving over 500 square miles from the vineyards in the valley to the snow-capped Sierras, our combination department staffs 9 stations and puts 6 engines on the road every single day. Backed by a team of dedicated professionals and more than 30 committed volunteers, we're here to protect, serve, and engage with our community. From fire safety tips to behind-the-scenes action, we're here to keep you informed. I'm your host, Kayla Dale, Public Information Officer for Amador Fire, and today I'm sitting down with our 3 battalion chiefs to dive into what their days look like serving as battalion chief for such a unique department. From call volume to leadership and crew motivation, there's a lot to cover, so let's dive in. So here at Amador Fire, our operations are divided into 3 rotating shifts, A, B, and C. Each battalion chief manages one of these shifts, working a 48-hour on and 96 off schedule. So to start us off, I want to start with you, Chief Watkins. You're assigned to A shift, and I want to ask, can you share what defines the culture of A shift?
Great question. I think across the board in the organization, you do have a strong culture as an organization, as the district as a whole, but we're also the sum of all the parts. And one of the big things I look at as far as leadership for my individual, 48 hours out of 96 or 48 out of that focus on servant leadership. And that's absolutely critical. Part of that is obviously we as a battalion chief, that's that leadership component, but there's a servant portion of that, and that's giving your people the tools to meet the objective. So I try to harp on the servant leadership piece, and we have subordinate leaderships that work under leaders that work under the battalion chiefs, and I feel that that's absolutely important. And we want to develop people for that next step in their career, and hopefully you're building people to take that next step. So, part of that leadership piece is defining expectations and objectives, but then helping build the individuals up to fill that next role. As far as individual culture or individuals and the uniqueness of my shift, we've got a lot of people have some really strong strengths. I think, we've got, as an organization, physical fitness is really valued, and we've got some folks that are just physically strong and really good in that aspect. And then, we've got folks that have strong mechanical aptitude, folks that have all the pieces of the puzzle that make us an effective team. I think it's going to be a common theme across our other 2 shifts.
I think every shift, like Chief Watkins said, is pretty common practice to be on the same page with everybody and having the same goals in mind. I think I don't want to separate the 3 shifts out, but I think the way I try to operate on B shift is just try to stay engaged with the crews and having a operational plan, for the 48 that we're there. I always tell them I won't, do anything. I'm not going to have them do anything I won't do with them. So I think Chief Watkins said physical fitness is huge. We do have a lot of active people on that shift as well. And I think what's key to those shifts is, everybody has their individual highlights. And I think for B shift right now, we have 2 individuals. Actually, we have 3 individuals on their promotional or probationary task books and all in different stages. So we've got some strengths, we've got some weaknesses, and when we notice those weaknesses, we're all trying to capitalize that to lift each other up. So I think we all just stay active. I can, comment for every shift. It seems that way. And like Chief Watkins said, we have an ultimate goal that we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think what's unique about my shift, C shift, is the individuals that are on that shift. We've all heard stories in the past on, A shift or B shift or C shift, and I really believe that resonates with all, 3 of the shifts, is that I think people kind of just migrate to, like-minded individuals. And, I have a really good shift. I have really good, captains on my shift. What I try to do is just try to be a support for them. I don't I don't try to run their day-to-day schedules and what they got going on. I'll let the company officers and the captain definitely make that decision what's going on. I'm there to support them if they need it. And a lot of times we find ourselves just kind of fixing, minute little problems throughout the day. We all do our conference calls in the morning. We get a list of kind of what's going on and what the shifts need, and we try to fulfill those needs. And, definitely just trying to make our rounds throughout the day to, be there for them and, check in with the guys, check in with the crews to see if everything's going okay and how they're doing with, work and how they're doing with their family. And, main thing is just letting them know that, I'm there for them or we're there for them to help them out in any way that we can.
Something that we've talked about on prior episodes, and that's unique to Amador Fire that I think not many listeners may realize, is the vast area that we cover, over 500 square miles across a wide range of terrain and communities. And I'll touch on some specific examples of recent calls here in a moment, but I want to start by asking each of you, how do you structure your day? Knowing you're the sole duty chief covering that much ground, balancing administrative responsibilities and training and so on. So how do you manage your day to day?
Yeah, and that is an ongoing challenge with our call volume, and every day is different. And aside from just the normal day-to-day routine of managing 6 engine companies, you get meetings thrown on our plate and training opportunities, and those are great, just great things that those are all important for us in preparedness. So with that, we work a 48-hour shift, so we usually it's come in the morning. We do our pass off with the previous battalion chief, kind of get what's going on in the district, progress on projects that maybe individuals are working on. And then we go into that conference call that you mentioned. And that's absolutely critical because those are those opportunities for us to get out a common message of, hey, this is what everybody's got going on in the day. So we can accommodate if an engine's got to go to a training event, and we can adjust our coverage plan or anything like that. And we're getting out good, valid information. What's the fire weather going to be like today? Do we have a major storm event coming in? We're going to have to deal with chaining up engines. So that's that part of it. We want to get that message, kind of know what's going on in the day. And then it goes into just normal work processes. And one of the big things for me, and I believe all our battalion chiefs, is, we want to have some face time with those engine companies and go out and visit them, see what they have going on, see if there's anything they need support wise. We're given expectations of what we want done. We want to inspect what we expect. So, hey, they're working on this project. Where are we at with that? And then, part of that's finding time and developing a schedule in your day where it's like, okay, I need to work on developing this project and spend some time on that administrative task. But we do want to make sure that we're available to our staff that are spread throughout the county so we can help support them. So, and then there's new incident reports. We have our own training that we need to do, and finding time to slot that away in your day can be a challenge, especially times of high call volume, or, we're actively involved in community meetings, and those things pop up and can alter that schedule.
Absolutely. And one thing that I've really noticed about your roles as battalion chiefs is the level of flexibility it requires. You may start the day with a plan and then everything shifts due to calls or unexpected meetings. I think that's kind of the same, or safe to say that's the same across the board for all fire departments. But, staying adaptable is clearly a key part of your workflow. So staying on that topic of workflow and communication, Chief Ebling, I'd like to ask, we have Chief Withrow as our fire chief, who is consistently driving innovation and introducing new ideas to move the district forward. So how do you keep up with that momentum while also managing your own day-to-day responsibilities like we've been talking about?
As we all know, Chief Withrow definitely has a plan, and I think that's something we're all jumping on board with. And I think the key to that is being able to adapt and overcome to your daily operational period. As Chief Watkins stated, we have a lot of stuff that's on our plates throughout the day, and we also want to engage with our crews as well. But we do have that in my head. I just kind of make that priority list as I start my day out. with a 48 of what the priorities are for me to accomplish, for the crews to accomplish, and how can I support them. And every day we adapt and overcome to the new things that pop up. And Chief Withrow has a lot of stuff on his plate, and there's a lot of stuff that he can delegate to us that we take on for him. So I think just prioritizing throughout the day is key for us.
I think a lot of times we come to work, we have an idea of what we want to do or accomplish for the shift that we're on. And we find out quickly by, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock in the morning on the first day one, that may not happen. We'll have a list of things we want to work on. And yeah, sometimes we get to work on that, but a lot of times, the call volume that we have, that doesn't get in the way, but that affects our day to where, before we know it, it's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, and you're just pulling back into the station, and you just didn't get anything done besides maybe having some FaceTime with the crews or getting a couple, supplies for them at, the local stores. And then you think, okay, well, I got tomorrow. And next, your next day, same thing. Maybe a meeting pops up or, chief calls up and, hey, I got a project for you to work on, which we're always available and always there. And, we appreciate the opportunity, and we appreciate the trust he has in us to be able to do that. But a lot of times it's just, I try to plan for the unexpected. I have a plan what I want to do when I come to work, but I know it can change at any moment. Either training gets in the way, not gets in the way, but, training comes up, or we got to move engines around to help cover. Or if one of our engines gets pulled, either 111 gets pulled up into close to Alpine County, now we got to move everybody up to cover on that one. Or if 122 gets moved into El Dorado County, it's the same thing. So a lot of times people don't realize that takes up a good chunk of the days, and sometimes you have to, have a tactical pause, so to speak, on and maybe try to regroup our days. Okay, what's the priority now? What do we got to get done? So it's always exciting. I'd say there's not one same shift in the month. Every shift is going to be different. It's definitely not Groundhog Day. Every day it's something new here.
So, Chief Watkins, I'm going to pass it over to you. But before we dive into specifics like call volume, I'd like to start by taking a step back and looking at things from a more broader leadership and department perspective. You've served as a battalion chief for some time now. Can you share what changes or evolutions you've seen across the district over the past few years?
I've seen evolution and change with different perspectives and ways that all those individuals handle business. And, and they've all been building blocks to getting to where we are now. One of the things I see is having a clearly defined vision. And so where do we want to be in the next year, 5 years, 10 years? How do we want to grow and develop our district? So, and I've seen that with all those chiefs. I've definitely seen, so our vision hasn't really shifted a whole lot in terms of, we want to be one of the premier fire departments in our region, but it's how are we getting there and articulating how the steps we're going to take to get there. And so I've noticed that shift in the last few years of a very defined path of where we're going to, how we're going to get to our end state. In the last year, I've seen some team building that's occurred as an organization where culturally we're getting stronger, where we have individuals that, when our partners or fellow peers have struggles, that culture is going there to support them and build them up and help, I've seen that family and cultures become tighter. And not saying it wasn't there before, but I've seen it kind of refine and improve.
Yeah. And, something that you just mentioned was the importance of having a clear, actionable plan. And we've touched on this in previous episodes, especially the one with Chief Withrow. But the strategic plan and the committee behind it really stand out as a strength for Amador Fire, for me at least. And while we've had strategic plans in the past, the approach this time feels especially impactful. With chief officers actively involved, representation from both paid and volunteer staff, and meaningful input from community members, I think that level of collaboration really supports the broader goals you were just speaking about. So, Chief Jelinek, given your time with the organization, how would you describe our journey so far, where we've been as a department and where you see us heading in the coming years?
Just like how Chief Watkins I've had the privilege of working with the 4 fire chiefs for Amador Fire, and each one of them have contributed, and each had their strengths and weaknesses that they've done. And we went from a volunteer organization, a really strong volunteer organization, to in 2010 with the passage of Measure M to become a paid fire department. And that time, that chief at the time has really set this department up for success. And even until today, as we sit here, we're still reaping the benefits of what happened during that time. So that's something we're very appreciative of. And when we had our I'd say our growing period where we started adding more staff into the stations, which was something that was really needed. When I started and when I was a captain, I was 1-0 on an engine in one of our busiest stations. And just as Chief Watkins, I'm sure he was been the same thing too, with being 1-0 on an engine. And for some departments that may work, and for us, it just definitely doesn't work. There's a huge safety factor in there. So we had this. I don't want to maybe use the term explosion of growth, but we grew up pretty quickly. And so during some times there, I mean, if you were to look at your hand, you got 4 fingers and a thumb that all point in, 5 different directions. And there was times where I felt like, we were just moving so quickly, we weren't sure where we're going. And, now with Chief Withrow here, we really have a solid, a really good solid foundation. He's taken the time to work with us 3 BCs quite a bit. And we have a nice direction. We have one direction of where we're heading, and we all know what that end goal is. And we're all, very excited and very happy to work towards that end goal.
Yeah, and just to expand on something that you just mentioned, the time that Chief Withrow has dedicated to supporting all 3 of you, both as a team and individually, really stands out. And I think a key part of that is the monthly ops meetings that he hosts, with all of you guys as a group. And those meetings are very important also, but it's like a valuable platform for open dialogue, whether it's sharing wins, addressing challenges, or just having the space to speak candidly. And it's really more so of a team building opportunity for all 3 of you guys and him to participate in once a month. I think it's a great example of intentional leadership in action. So moving forward over to Chief Ebling, I have one final question for you on the topic of leadership and department perspective. As one of our newer battalion chiefs, what challenges have you faced in adapting or evolving your leadership style in this new role?
Adapted to a lot of leadership challenges, to be honest. I think I didn't really realize the capacity of going from the 30,000 foot scenery to 100,000 foot scenery from captain to battalion chief. So I think it's taken me some time to kind of get my feet on the ground. And I think, with the help of the other 2 BCs and Chief Withrow coming in, I've really been able to evolve and kind of create my own category, as I guess you would say. I think just adapting to taking the constructive criticism, learning from some of the mistakes I've made, and trying to gain ground in that direction. I think one of my biggest struggles is probably just taking the captain mentality out and bringing in the battalion chief mentality. It's really hard for me to separate myself from being out there, pulling and bedding hose and wanting to be out there with them doing that. And I think that was one of the biggest pieces of advice that Chief Withrow gave me when I was promoted and he became chief here, was just, you got to find that separation. And I think I'm slowly doing that right now. I still want to be engaged with the crews, but there is definitely a different view from where I'm at. And I think taking the criticism and humbling myself every once in a while has allowed me to grow a little bit in that category.
Absolutely. And you're going to continue to grow. All of us are going to continue to grow. And that's one of the items that I love so much about the fire service. So shifting gears here a little bit, I want to dive into specific calls and call volume. Like we mentioned earlier, Chief Watkins, maybe you can help set the stage by explaining the diversity within our jurisdiction, the wide range of terrain we cover, and how that impacts the type of calls we respond to. I know just this weekend you experienced that firsthand, going from snow in the higher elevations all the way down to the valley floor. So could you walk us through how your day unfolded? I think it's really important, and it highlights the pace, the variety, and the geographic challenges our crews face every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, that's one of the things I appreciate about working where we do. We have such a diverse response area that it provides constant challenges, and you have to adapt as we're responding throughout our entire jurisdiction, and that provides a challenge and makes it a little dynamic where we've got some really great opportunities and a chance to gain some phenomenal experience. So, going back to this last Saturday, I was filling in for Kayla, helping facilitate a meeting with one of our Firewise communities, and it was a great meeting. Got to get engaged with the community, and that's one thing I do appreciate about our level of involvement with the community through branding, our social media outreach, our the phenomenal number of meetings we do with those community members. Um, so got to facilitate that meeting. I was actually heading out to go look at a driveway that was brought up in that meeting and look at it as far as apparatus turnaround. I make it partway there, and we get dispatched for a residential structure fire in Station 111's response area up outside of Buckhorn. So you get a full dispatch, turn around. I was partway down Sutter Creek Road, which is kind of a narrow, winding road. So turn around, drive back up. Crews get in the area. We're looking, and we had basically was reported as somebody seeing a fire from the back of their house. So they said there was a structure on fire. So crews are going there trying to locate where it is. Finally, when I get up there, we were able to make contact with the reporting party and found out it was just a burn pile. So shut everything down. Like I was expecting to go to work and run an incident. So we start winding down, and then right as we're all clearing that area, we get dispatched for a medical aid, and then a couple seconds later, they upgraded that to a medical rescue, and ended up being a snowmobiler that was about 2.5 miles off the highway that had ended up getting in a snowmobile accident. So that added more resources to that. So y'all head up that direction, and we start getting that direction. And we had help from our partners across the Alpine County line in terms of Kirkwood Fire Department, and they responded along with a U.S. Forest Service engine. So we ended up having two of our engines, Forest Service engine and Kirkwood, and then we had a volunteer grab an additional engine, which is a huge component of our department. Is that we're a combination department, and those volunteers do provide us the ability to surge resources and help backfill stations when we have vacancies created by our call volume, and they also respond to our calls. Mm-hmm. So got up there, started managing the incident, but while I'm en route, we always are considering, we're preparing for that next call, right? Because it's not uncommon. We're running multiple calls throughout our jurisdiction. So we have a cover plan of how we move resources to cover specific stations. So a little bit of manipulating that based on where the call was and what resources were where, because a lot of engines were out of station. So we got folks reassigned. And we go up and we handle the call we're up in the snow. So with the actual call itself, I established a incident command post at basically the turnout to where they went. Start getting crews in to go find this snowmobiler. We had a little bit of information. We had a Latin long that came from their cell phone, but that was varying levels of accuracy. Search and rescue type incidents, we first priority is locating where this victim or patient is. So we started getting a crew together. We built a plan. Hey, we're going to have you go in, try to hike to this Latin long and find that victim. We got to access them. And then our goal is to stabilize them, get them, treat what's immediately life-threatening, and then eventually transport them. So how the call ended up playing out, as our folks were hiking in, H20 was able to get overhead, locate the patient. Some of our members got to the location. The helicopter landed, and they went and got to the patient, started packaging him, loaded him up on the helicopter, and then transported him to definitive medical care.
Right. And everything that you just shared really speaks to Amador Fire being a true all-risk department. Our crews, and especially the three of you being battalion chiefs, can be responding to just about anything, whether it's in the snow-covered terrain or down in the valley floor like we continue to talk about. And so before I shift over to Chief Jelinek, I wanted to stay on the topic of specific calls and go over to Chief Ebling for a moment. Chief Ebling, you recently responded to a dynamic incident on Highway 88, which involved multiple accidents while en route to another accident where a patient had sustained major injuries. They were trapped, needed to, be cut out of the vehicle, and there were several unexpected challenges like engines needing to chain up just to reach the scene, heavy traffic coming off the mountain, and even air ambulance being unable to land nearby due to weather conditions. So, can you just walk us through that incident and what stood out most to you in terms of response complexity and decision making on scene?
Yeah, so we did have a significant vehicle accident last week in the snow, which is always challenging for every crew. Everybody in the fire service has a passion for a particular topic, whether it be structure fires, wildland. And I always kind of hang my hat on and need, having a passion for vehicle extrication. And so I feel like I've, got a decent handle on that. And this incident definitely, humbled me a little bit and, challenged myself, not only myself, but everybody there. And it was just a, significant, major injury vehicle accident. And there was a lot of issues going on that we were struggling with. Upon my arrival, Engineer Raza was there at scene already, doing a phenomenal job with vehicle stabilization, and he had already set up all his extrication tools. We had a patient that had entrapment on the passenger side of the vehicle into a tree. He came up to me, very composed, and just said, "Hey, I've tried a couple things. It's not working for me." And was looking for my expertise. We took a little tactical pause and stepped back and kind of looked at what we had and reevaluated the situation and came up with a couple of different game plans. Those game plans again didn't work. So I think in everything we do, we have to have put the egos aside and humble ourselves a little bit and take a step back and what we call the tactical pause and reevaluate the situation. We had a couple other vehicle accidents going on at the time. And luckily they were UTL, so Captain Payne had arrived in 5368, which was perfect for us because we needed. Long story short, we came up with a couple good game plans. Eventually got the patient out. She was stable enough to be transported and flown out from Sutter Amador. But I guess my point to the situation is we're always comfortable until we're not. And I think the complacency can definitely catch up with us, and we just want to make sure our eyes are open. And it's good to be humbled sometimes. Like I said, I take a passion in that particular topic. When I got there, I felt like my plan was going to work, and it didn't. So we just always want to make sure that we're sitting there ready and to make those decision changes and come up with new plans. But I'm thankful that all the hard work that 5111 did, 5368, Chief Withrow was there. There were a lot of different people there that helped us out with that. It was just a challenging call, one of the most challenging extrications I've ever had. But it will make me better than I was yesterday on that call. So.
And I think what both of you just described really highlights how quickly calls can stack up, especially when we only have one battalion chief on duty at a time. And for those listening, I just want to recap. One battalion chief every day on duty, covering a district that spans over 500 square miles. That's a huge responsibility, and the pace can shift in an instant. So, Chief Jelinek, in situations like that, where calls start coming in back to back, it can really catch people off guard just how fast our call volume can escalate. So how do you prepare for those surges throughout your day, especially while balancing, like we keep talking about, training, admin duties, and everything else on your plate?
I think one of the biggest things is you just mentioned is training. The training component of it is why we're around to our different stations and talking to our different crews is, I'll ask them, I'll try to put them in situations and just get their thoughts and get them thinking about it to where if they are in an area, they have multiple calls, when to know if they're responding to one call versus going to the other call. And it's just trying to get their thoughts on it. But mainly is, you try to prepare for the unexpected, and this is definitely one of them, where it happens. It can be a nice sunny day and it's a quiet day. Say it's a Saturday and you don't think anything's going on, and next you'll have just 4 or 5 calls just stack up back to back to back, or multiple vehicle accidents in one area. I believe there was probably about a year ago, during the nighttime, we were on a DUI accident on Highway 49, and I was with the Station 122 personnel. And during that time, we had 2 additional potential accidents off of, Latrobe Road and by Highway 16. And so it's situations like that do arise and the crews are aware. And a lot of times the crews kind of step up, and before you have to ask them a question or get on the radio, hey, dispatch this engine, they're already going. And I think Chief Watkins made a good point earlier on is our volunteer component of that plays a huge role in that. And now so more than ever, they'll hear those calls, they'll recognize that, hey, we need some help. And next thing you know, they're staffing up engines and they're responding. So that is definitely something that's very appreciated of that. Point earlier on is our volunteer component of that plays a huge role in that. And now so more than ever, they'll hear those calls, they'll recognize that, hey, we need some help. And next thing you know, they're staffing up engines and they're responding. So that is definitely something that's very appreciated of it.
Yeah. And while we're on that topic, I'd like to ask, how do you keep your crews motivated and maintaining a positive mindset during these long shifts, especially during challenging seasons? I think we've discussed the snow conditions, and with fire season approaching, I think it's important to stay focused. And as battalion chiefs, how are you ensuring your crews, really stay engaged and motivated through it all?
I think we're lucky with the personnel and the crews that we have is, we can do everything we can to try to keep them motivated, but the crews actually keep themselves motivated. The crews are happy to be here. The personnel we have are happy to be here. They're excited for this agency and the direction we're going. And a lot of times those conversations happen as you're sitting down with them at the table and you're either breaking bread with them or you're just having those moments with them. And yeah, there's times where the crews are tired. They've been up all night and depending on certain weather events and they're exhausted. And, but in my experience, when the tones go out, they're wide awake and they're responding to the next one. And that's a testament to the personnel that we have here. That is not a testament to how I do it. It's a lot of it comes from themselves, and I'm super appreciative of that.
Yeah, I agree with everything Chief Yannick just said. I think the supportive factor is huge. I think, like I said before, just being engaged with them, explaining what we're doing, why we're doing the things we do, and checking in, like Chief Yannick said earlier, checking in with their families while we're on these long runs, and just being supportive of the crews is huge. And what's funny is on my shift, I'm showing every shift, you get a lot of crews, being supportive of us as well. And that's huge. And it's huge to get questions asked of us. Like, we're trying to support them as well. And they do the same right back to us. So I think it is hard to be realistic here. It is definitely hard to work huge workloads and be busy all the time and run the calls we do, especially in the summertime, being gone away from our families for long periods of time. But we all know what we signed up for, and we enjoy it, and we love it every minute of it.
Every little piece of that of that other time is preparation, whether it's training, making sure the fire engine's in service, our tools are working. Part of that is giving our folks adequate rest cycles during that. So they've been up running all night on power lines down and vehicle accidents. Like, okay, as long as the rig's in service, you're ready to respond. You can take a nap in the afternoon. That's acceptable. Right. But the other side of it is like, hey, when it's time to perform, it's time to perform. And so really it still always cycles back to is why are we here? We're not here for ourselves. We're here for the community and the visitors to the community that we serve.
Absolutely. And servant leadership is all about leading with a focus on the team's needs first and empowering them to succeed. I should say, giving them the tools to succeed. So with that in mind, I just want to ask Chief Watkins, what are a couple of things you do in your leadership style that you think make an effective presence on your shift?
I don't know if it's necessarily unique. I think we have some very common traits between all of our command staff, and I think as an organization, we've definitely pushed towards adopting a servant leadership model. But we're different people, right? Some of us may be more aggressive and some of us are more passive in how we talk to people. And that is it's a challenging question to say, how am I unique from Justin or Rob? But, I think it all comes back to that relationship building piece. And I see that in all of us. We build relationships with our people because a huge portion of being a leader is trust, right? I need to have trust in the people that work for me, and they need to have trust in me to do the right things and help them in their process. I think empowerment is a huge thing that we should we should enforce as leaders. We want our individual crews to make decisions, right? And it may not be the right, perfect decision in Aaron Watkins's world, but I want them to make a decision as long as they have safety and ethics in mind. I want them to do that. And we'll talk about best practices afterward and some different approach to it. But I think allowing people to make decisions and handle business, because we work in an industry where we don't have direct supervision all the time.
Right. And I think that that's a really good approach. You are allowing team members to make decisions while keeping safety and ethics in mind, like you mentioned. And overall, I think that's just a winning mindset. So now as we wrap up this episode, I want to move into some personal reflection questions. I've got 3 questions. I'm going to ask each of you one of them. And just please feel free to add anything that you want to as we close out this episode. So starting with Chief Jelinek, I want to ask, what is one piece of advice you would give to someone aspiring to be a battalion chief or wanting to enter the chief officer rank in a department as unique as ours?
I think what I would tell that individual, one is I'd say definitely have an understanding of what you're getting into. And I would say just focus on being the best version of you now, currently, in whatever role you're in, whether it be firefighter, engineer, captain. Focus on being the best version of you in that role. Become a master of your craft. The time for promotion will be there. It'll definitely, if you keep going along a good path and you're doing the best that you can, whatever rank you're in, that time for promotion will be there. And definitely it's not something to rush. It's just, you'll get there, take your time, but just be the best version of you now.
Right. And, I love that. Really continuing your education, continuing your classes, continuing your strengths. So when the time comes, you are ready to hit the ground running in that role. So Chief Ebling, what would you say you're most proud of in your role as a battalion chief right now?
There's a couple things I think. I think one of them is just the way the 3 of us have combined and grown together. I think upon Chief Withrow's arrival, I don't know if disconnected is the right word, but I felt like the 3 battalion chiefs maybe are on the different page every once in a while. And I think him putting us under his wings and kind of getting us together and adding some structure and some expectations, I think the trust has grown between the 3 of us extraordinarily well over the last couple of years. And I feel like that's one part that I'm super proud of to be a part of, is to be on the same page every day with these 2 guys. Another one I feel proud of is I feel like every shift is different. I feel like I'm proud of what we've done with the gentlemen that are on probations. I feel like seeing them grow and evolve is huge too. So I feel like and just to be a part of that for all 3 of us, in my mind, is something for all of us to be proud of, and everybody that's helping them get through that. That's kind of my mindset.
I like it. And I think that both of those examples that you gave really emphasize on the point of teamwork and team building and the importance of that. So I really, really like those examples. So last but not least, Chief Watkins, as the battalion chief, I think your role is crucial to the success and smooth operation of the department. So many may not understand or fully understand the scope and responsibilities a battalion chief carries, especially behind the scenes. So what is one aspect of your role that the public may not realize, but it is essential to keeping the department running effectively and serving our community?
I'd say one thing in particular with our organization, right? We are that operational supervision piece for the district. And when people aren't familiar with our jurisdiction, we cover a vast area, as you mentioned. We've got 6 individual engine companies on the road every day, handling business. And that provides challenges, right? I'm one person and I've got to, manage people that are spread out through a vast geographical area and help supervise people with varying levels of experience and education and try to build them up to be stronger in their role, help prepare them for their next role. So I think that is a challenge, and you see a battalion chief out cruising around in a pickup truck throughout the community, that it is a rather busy position, because it's not just, I'm responding to calls. I'm doing multiple things. We're attending community meetings. We're facilitating training, and part of that's building relationships with some of our partner agencies. Right, in Amador County, no one entity is big enough that can handle all the emergencies there. So a huge part of that is dealing with and building relationships with our partners that are from CAL FIRE or law enforcement or even community groups, public works, the health department, our local ambulance providers. So I think that's a huge component of this, because the time to build relationships isn't at the tailgate of a pickup truck running an incident. That we're going to be successful if we build those relationships earlier.
Right, absolutely. And as we've heard throughout this episode, the variety of responsibilities you each manage is truly remarkable, to be honest. I think from last minute calls to public presentations, whether it's a school or the health department or the community events, you all three handle these demands with extreme flexibility. And like we've talked about, you have to have flexibility in this role. Personally, I'm grateful for each one of you. Because you adapt, I know that I often call saying we need to be somewhere, whether it's urgent or unexpected, to present or to, be in front of a community member to help them out with a property inspection or whatever that looks like. Just this morning, we got an email about adding a school presentation, and we had to alter some items on our calendar, which kind of just fulfills what we were talking about earlier with, your day-to-day operations can change in an instant. So at the end of the day, our primary mission is to protect life and property, and we also have an important responsibility to serve and educate the community in every way possible. I think that all three of you have highlighted that well throughout your responses today in this episode. So I just really want to thank you each so much for sitting down with me for episode 3 of the Amador Fire C.A.N. report. I really hope that our listeners gain some insights into the day-to-day operations of what you three do as battalion chiefs and the critical role that you play every day in keeping things running smoothly. So thank you again. I really appreciate you guys all taking the time out of your day to do this.
Thank you, Kate. I appreciate you allowing us the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that wraps up episode 3 of the Amador Fire C.A.N. report. A huge thank you to Chief Jelinek, Chief Watkins, and Chief Ebling for sharing their insights and experiences serving as battalion chief for Amador Fire. Remember, Amador Fire is more than just a department. We're your neighbors, your first responders, and your community partners. Stay connected with us on social media for updates, safety tips, and more behind-the-scenes stories. Until next time, stay safe and stay prepared.